What if Jerry discovered portal tech first? Got a dumbest friend ever wondered what would happen if they got infinite power first? Well, if you love Jerry Smith for some reason, buckle up, because we're going to hand the portal gun to literally the last man on Earth you'd trust with a universal remote. Not Rick, not evil Morty, not some hyper-competent space Beth, Jerry, in his target pajamas. It's 11:37 p.m, he's reheating day-old spaghetti, and while Rick's off getting blackout illegal in 3 dimensions, Jerry wanders into the garage looking for the good Tupperware, and finds a glowing, half-finished prototype on the workbench. He thinks it's a fancy microwave timer. So he points it at the kitchen table, mashes the trigger like it's a car unlock button, and rips open a swirling green wound in reality directly over his leftovers. Meatballs? Gone. Gravity? Optional. Suddenly you've got fork, plate, and one extremely confused Jerry getting yoinked toward a screaming purple sky, where a dozen Ricks are already yelling about safety protocols he definitely didn't read. Imagine that freeze frame. Jerry, mid-scream, clutching a plastic bowl, while a council chamber full of Ricks realizes the most powerful tech in the multiverse just got speedrun by the guy who lost a job to an app. That's not just a bad day. That is a structural failure of reality. Because in a universe where portal tech is the top-tier cheat code, whoever gets it first owns movement, escape, and every crime scene in between. Rick usually holds that crown, but flip it. Imagine a timeline where every Rick has to ask Jerry for portal access, where the Council of Ricks has to schedule a meeting with Jerry Prime, king of accidentally pressing the wrong button. You think that makes things safer? Or did we just hand the nuclear football to the guy who can't even control his own marriage? Jerry is insecure, desperate for validation, and terrified of everything. So his first instinct isn't going to be explore the multiverse. It's going to be finally make people respect me, even if that means slicing holes through reality to escape every awkward conversation and bad day at work. And believe it or not, that might make him way more dangerous than Rick. Rick is nihilistic, sure, but he understands the math of the damage. Jerry doesn't even understand the user manual. Just to give you an idea of how bad that is, picture the Galactic Federation realizing the keys to infinite borders are in the hands of a guy who once weaponized a daycare complaint form. They're not going to ignore him. They're going to recruit him, kidnap him, or erase him. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk step by step through how Jerry plausibly discovers portal tech before Rick, how that rewires the entire Smith family dynamic, how the Council of Ricks and the Federation react to a Jerry-first multiverse, and how the whole Rick and Morty timeline mutates around the new weakest link in existence. By the end, we're going to answer one question. Does a Jerry-first portal timeline accidentally make the universe safer? Or does it create the most pathetic tyrant in animation history? I don't know, I'm kind of here for it. So before we start throwing Jerry through screaming green holes in space, we need ground rules. What actually changes, and what stays the same? Because if we let Jerry suddenly become Tony Stark with a portal gun, that's not analysis. That's fan fiction written by a very lonely algorithm. Premise first, same characters, same basic universe, same sad beige marriage. Rick is still Rick, Morty is still anxious Jello in a yellow shirt, Beth is still clinging to the idea that her dad is a genius and her husband is not. The only divergence is timing and access. Jerry gets portal technology before Rick is known as the portal guy. Rick might be secretly working on it, might have invented it in another timeline, but publicly. The first person on Earth to open a door to another reality is Jerry. Let that crime against narrative sink in for a second. Now, how are we going to pick this apart without completely losing the plot? We're treating this like a timeline reconstruction. Imagine a bored space historian with a corkboard, red string, and way too many Jerry pictures. We're going to take show canon, Jerry's insecurity, Rick's tech level, the Council of Ricks, the Galactic Federation, and ask, if this one event flips, what realistically follows? Not what would be coolest, but what would probably happen in a universe that already lets a drunk grandpa commit cosmic war crimes before breakfast. We also need to define what Jerry discovers portal tech actually means. He's not suddenly out-deriving Rick's math. He doesn't wake up and speedrun quantum tunneling. This is Jerry, the guy who can't keep a job selling advertising banners. So he either stumbles onto Rick's unfinished prototype in the garage, gets reassigned to some shady government-adjacent R&D contract, or trips over a corporate lab portal rig while looking for the break room donuts. He turns it on, it kind of works, and congratulations, the multiverse just got its least qualified IT admin. From there, we're going to scale the fallout. First, tiny, family-level stuff. How do Beth, Morty, and Summer react when the household disappointment suddenly has the one gadget that makes Rick special? Then neighborhood and planetary. What happens when Earth authorities, the Federation, or some bored Zagarian scammer realize Jerry Prime controls a working portal interface? After that, we zoom out to multiversal politics. How the Council of Ricks responds when the key to infinite Ricks is in the hands of a guy who can't parallel park. And finally, long-term character arcs. What's Rick's sentence in a world where he's not the first mover? Does Morty still become Rick's traumatized sidekick, or Jerry's even more traumatized intern? Does Beth double down on Rick, or on the Jerry who finally looks useful? Believe it or not, this is going to be a half-dark comedy, half-fake academic lecture. You're going to get mental charts, emotional damage for Jerry, and at least one universe-ending midlife crisis. So buckle up, because next we're dropping Jerry in front of a live humming portal device and seeing what he does when the universe finally hands him the remote. So picture this. The one day the universe actually gives Jerry a window of opportunity. It's a Tuesday. Beth's at the hospital, probably saving lives. Rick's off-world on a bender with at least 3 species that don't have skeletons. Morty and Summer are at school pretending their family isn't a war crime in progress. And Jerry is home, wandering, like a lost Roomba with anxiety. He does the classic Jerry loop, checks the fridge, checks his email, checks the fridge again, like maybe a job offer spawned next to the pickles. Nothing. He gets that vague, unemployed ache, that everyone else has a role except me feeling, and for some reason his brain goes, you know what'll fix this? Sentimental clutter. So he drifts toward the one place he's absolutely not supposed to be. Rick's garage. You can almost hear the crime stats ticking up already. He mutters something like, Beth said my old college trophies were in a box out here, which is adorable because Jerry absolutely did not win enough trophies to justify a whole box. But it's the story he tells himself, and today, that's his quest. He squeezes past death lasers he thinks are car parts, brushes against a tank labelled in alien script, and then catches his foot on a tarp. One stumble, one full-body dad flail, and he yanks the tarp down like a magician revealing the world's most illegal rabbit. Underneath, a half-assembled portal rig on a workbench, cables everywhere, glowing core and Rick's handwriting all over it. And this is where it gets dangerous because Rick has labelled everything like he's leaving notes for hungover Rick. Big arrows. Calibration only, idiot. Do not touch this, Rick. Portal matrix. Seriously, Rick. For you and me, that's a giant red flag. For Jerry, it's basically an invitation. He squints, reads calibration as activation, and his brain goes, I don't know, I'm kind of here for it. You can see the thought process loading in real time. Insecurity, then curiosity, then denial. He tells himself, I'm just helping Rick organize. Or, maybe if I understand what Beth's dad actually does, she'll respect me. He's absolutely not qualified. This man once lost a job to an app that makes people sad. But he reaches anyway because this feels like his one shot at not being background furniture. He presses the calibration button like he's turning on a TV. The core spikes green. Space makes a noise it shouldn't be able to make. A small shivering portal irises open in midair, barely stable like reality's trying vape tricks. Jerry screams, obviously. Then we get the panic montage. He throws a screwdriver in. Gone. A tennis ball. Gone. A Mr. Meeseeks box instruction manual, also gone. Every object is a tiny experiment in, is this going to blow up my house? And every success, just to give you an idea of how bad his judgment is, convinces him this is fine. Legally speaking, we're already at interdimensional trespass, reckless use of weapons of mass topology, and whatever the crime is for poking holes in the multiverse while wearing Crocs. Now a normal person calls Beth. A smarter criminal calls Rick. Jerry? Jerry looks at this trembling doorway to infinite universes and thinks, if I tell him, he'll just take it away. Believe it or not, this is the first time he feels powerful in the years. So he does the most Jerry thing possible. He decides to keep it secret. No backup plan, no safety goggles, just a middle-aged man and a bootleg portal rig. He tells himself he's going to practice, maybe fix a few things in his life off-world before Rick notices. And that's how we get Jerry's pathetic double life as a bargain bin interdimensional traveller, setting up the moment the Council of Ricks realises the multiverse just got a Jerry problem. And when Rick finally comes home to an unstable portal residue in his garage, yeah, that's where everything really starts to break. Origin story. Corporate Jerry and the defence contractor portal leak. But that's the Jerry in a garage timeline. Let's crank the corporate dystopia slider up to 11. In Origin Story B, Jerry's still in marketing, but the company isn't selling cereal or insurance. It's a chirpy tech brand with a very unchirpy classified contract. Quantum gateway research for a defence contractor that absolutely should not be letting Jerry anywhere near it. He's the guy making internal slogans like "Tomorrow's Frontline Today" for a weapon he thinks is, I don't know, a cooler drone. You know those mandatory all-hands where they brag about innovation pipelines? Jerry gets dragged into one of those. Boring beige conference room, stale pastries, a PowerPoint titled Q-Gate Deployment Phase 1. Only, behind the buzzwords and stock photos, you've got an honest-to-God prototype portal rig in the corner, humming like an angry microwave. The real scientists are late. Security assumes correctly that Jerry is useless. Nobody assumes he's a threat, so they leave him alone, with the device, and a laptop, and, because this is the dumbest timeline, a sticky note on the podium with the admin password. You can practically hear Rick screaming from across the multiverse. Jerry starts poking around to kill time. He opens the slide deck. There are redacted frames, classified stamps, a line that reads Cross-Boundary Traversal Event 003 Non-Local Contact. He doesn't understand it, but he understands one thing. The company is about to restructure. Translation. He's probably getting laid off. Again. And this is where Jerry's brain does a crime. He looks at this portal tech and doesn't think, is this safe? He thinks, if I leak this, I become the guy who discovered it. Not the genius who built it, obviously, but the face, the whistleblower, the brave everyman. He's terrified, insecure, desperate for validation, and for some reason that combo is basically rocket fuel for terrible decisions. So he props his phone up against a coffee cup and records the clumsiest demo in history. Hey guys, Jerry here, I think this is Other Dimensions. He presses a few buttons he absolutely should not press. The rig coughs, spits light, and suddenly there's a stable, greenish hole in reality opening onto a ruined alternate Earth. Skeletons, flickering neon, a billboard with Rick's face in a language Jerry can't read. He screams, drops the phone, keeps recording. Classic Jerry. But the portal stabilizes. That signature flash, that energy profile, every serious multiversal player just heard a dinner bell. Jerry panics, slaps the emergency stop, and the portal snaps shut. Then he does something even more illegal. He edits the footage into a mysterious anomaly clip, blurs a few logos, slaps on royalty-free music, and sends it to a tech journalist from his burner email, anonymous tip. Except his reflection is in the monitor, his badge is visible for 2 frames, and the metadata is a snitch. Believe it or not, this doesn't just put Jerry on the radar of his HR department. The US government starts freaking out about leaks. The defense contractor launches an internal witch hunt. But way above that, the Galactic Federation flags a primitive world pinging portal signatures way ahead of schedule. And somewhere in the Citadel, a bored Rick analyst notices the energy pattern and files a report titled, Unregistered Jerry with Portal Access? Buckle up, because unlike the Quiet Garage timeline, this Jerry just announced himself to every paranoid god, government and grandpa in the multiverse. And they're all going to want a piece. Jerry with infinite doors, how he actually uses portal tech day to day. So what does Jerry actually do with god-tier multiversal access? Does he map the cosmos? Does he out-Rick Rick? No. He basically invents the world's most illegal Uber Eats and anxiety surveillance system. Remember, Rick uses portals for experimentation, power and boredom. Let's overthrow a space government, Morty. I'm kind of curious what happens. Jerry looks at the same tech and goes, what if I didn't have to sit in traffic ever again? That's his first big move. Portal from the kitchen to his cubicle, 5 feet from his boss, still somehow manages to be late. It's a hell of a downgrade if you ask me. And once he realizes it works, it gets sad fast. He opens a tiny portal behind Beth's desk at the hospital just to eavesdrop. Not to help her, not to save lives, just to see if she's talking about him. You've got infinite realities, and this man is basically using it as a cosmic Instagram stalker feature. Believe it or not, that already pings as a privacy crime in like 12 dimensions. Then he escalates in the most Jerry way possible. He finds a universe where Jerry Smith is slightly more successful. Not President Jerry, not Warrior Jerry. Just a Jerry with hair plugs and a marginally better job. He opens a portal in the closet, sits on a lawn chair and watches himself eat dinner with a Beth, who actually laughs at his jokes. That's his multiverse. Not conquest, not exploration. Just to give you an idea of how small his ambitions are, he literally treats the infinite as free cable. But here's the problem. Jerry is risk-averse and chaotic at the exact same time. He's not going to intentionally start a war. He's not building neutrino bombs. He's doing something way dumber. He opens portals in public bathrooms. He leaves one half open behind a billboard on the freeway. A kid throws a rock through the green hole. It comes out inside a Gromflemite daycare, and now some bug government has unregistered Jerry incident number 47 on file. This is background-level multiversal pollution. Tiny rips, random leaks, weird cross-contamination of timelines. Nothing big enough for a Rick to notice immediately, but enough that reality around the Smiths starts feeling off. Morty and Summer clock it first. Jerry disappears for smoke breaks even though he doesn't smoke. There's alien snack wrappers in the kitchen trash. A version of Jerry's tie shows up in the laundry that none of them remember buying. You ever see your dad come home looking slightly happier for no reason? Now imagine that with portal residue on his shoes. Beth, on the other hand, misdiagnoses the whole thing. New confidence, secretive behaviour, weird excuses. She doesn't jump to, my husband cracked multiversal travel. She goes, okay, he's either cheating or finally having the nervous breakdown he's been rehearsing since high school. And honestly, either sentence kind of fits. Anyway, buckle up, because these tiny petty uses of godlike power are already bending the walls around their lives. Jerry isn't blowing up planets, he's stress-fracturing reality. The real question isn't if he breaks something huge, it's what snaps first. The family, the government trying to track the anomaly, or Rick when he finally realizes the multiverse's weakest link got the keys before he did. Beth, Morty, and Summer living with a secretly omnipotent loser. And when reality starts stress-fracturing, you know who notices first. Not Rick, not the Galactic Federation, Beth. The horse surgeon who suddenly realizes her mediocre husband is tracking mud in from other dimensions. From Beth's perspective, this is a hell of a plot twist. On one hand, her loser finally did something. He's not just arguing with cable companies anymore, he's poking holes in space-time in the garage. That's kind of impressive, right? But then she sees a glowing green smear on the floor next to the wine rack and goes, okay, how illegal is it when your husband invents a war crime in the suburbs? She's torn between pride and the very real fear that she's going to wake up on an Earth where horses have 3 heads and call her mum. Dinner becomes a crime scene. Jerry's sweating, dropping multiversal hints like, traffic was crazy today. Way fewer tentacles than usual, though. Summer and Morty freeze. Beth's like, what did you just say? And Jerry backpedals with that classic weaponized incompetence. I meant metaphorical tentacles? Meanwhile, green residue is literally dripping from the ceiling vent onto the mashed potatoes. You don't need Rick's IQ to know something is going to explode. Morty's reaction is way darker, if you ask me. He's used to Rick being God with a hangover. That's predictable. But Jerry? Jerry with a portal gun is like giving a loaded railgun to a Roomba. It's not evil, it's just stupid and unstoppable. Morty probably tries to step into the mentor role, which is adorable and horrifying. He's like, no dad, you can't just open a portal in the living room, you're going to attract like government guys and Ricks and worse. Jerry smiles, nods, and 5 minutes later he's using a portal to skip the line at Dairy Queen. Just to give you an idea of how bad it gets, Morty ends up yelling, Grandpa Rick commits war crimes, and even he knows not to cross the Council of Ricks on purpose. Summer, though, Summer smells opportunity. She sees the glowing green door and immediately thinks, clout. Infinite realities means infinite ways to not be the boring girl at Harry Herpson High. For some reason, her first thought is probably, can I farm interdimensional TikTok content out of this? But she's also smart enough to weaponize it. She can absolutely blackmail Jerry into basic parental competence. You're going to show up to my parent-teacher conference, or I'm telling Rick you stole his whole thing. That's not a request, that's a sentence. And underneath all this awkward comedy is the fracture line. Jerry starts to like being the hero, the guy with the gun, not the guy in the passenger seat. You can feel the future argument already. Rick's cold, nihilistic control of the multiverse versus Jerry's needy, chaotic version. When those two finally collide, the kids aren't just caught in the middle of a custody battle. They're picking which broken god to stand behind. Believe it or not, dinner is the easy part. Next up, we'll see who notices Jerry first, the Council, the Federation, or Rick, and which one survives that meeting. A pattern break. The Council of Jerrys. Yes, that's a thing now. And speaking of who notices Jerry first, buckle up, because the answer is Jerry. Just not the one you started with. Once even one Jerry gets portal access, the math gets dark really fast. Infinite universes, infinite sad dads, and statistically one of them is going to fat finger the coordinates and land in front of himself. Imagine that moment. You step through a glowing hole in reality, expecting Rick, and instead you see your own face holding the same gun, asking the same question. Wait, your Beth also thinks you're a failure. They don't fight. They don't team up like Avengers. They trauma bond. Within minutes, you've got two Jerrys comparing alimony threats, unemployment stories, and how many days it's been since Rick called them human furniture. Give that pair a weekend and a whiteboard, and congratulations, you've just invented the worst multiversal institution of all time, the Council of Jerrys. Picture the citadel of Ricks. Now delete the cool architecture, the neon, the sense of purpose. Replace it with a beige business park, flickering fluorescent lights, and a lobby that smells like coffee breath and printer toner. That's the Council of Jerrys. It's not a citadel, it's an HR conference that accidentally ate infinity. Every Jerry is slightly different, but equally insecure. There's Fitness Jerry in a polo, Crypto Jerry who keeps saying this is actually bullish, Divorce Lawyer Jerry who only passed the bar in one timeline, and somewhere probably, a Jerry who still thinks fax machines are the future. Instead of coups and assassinations, they form committees, subcommittees, working groups. They don't pass laws. They pass Jerry affirmation charters about feeling valued in their own households. And what do they do with portal tech? Do they optimize the multiverse? No, they create support groups. Jerry's Anonymous, cross-reality dad book clubs, weekly Rick-free zones. We're talking about Morty is strongly discouraged because it's a trigger. They draft wildly inconsistent portal-sharing policies. Some timelines get unlimited jumps, others need to fill out a 17-page request form in triplicate. Just to give you an idea of how bad that is, one Jerry misfiles a portal code and strands an entire universe's humanity in a Chili's parking lot outside Phoenix. Technically not a crime in most galaxies, but it should be. Where the Council of Ricks weaponizes genius, the Council of Jerrys weaponizes incompetence. Rick creates singularities on purpose. Jerry creates low-grade entropy by accident. It's like giving the universe's default dad root access to reality and watching him click every "Are you sure?" pop-up. Ricks can model other Ricks. They cannot model Jerry Prime deciding portal policy based on who remembered his birthday. And if you think that's harmless, if you ask me, you're underestimating how petty Rick is. Because the moment the actual Council of Ricks realizes their monopoly on portal travel just got hijacked by the guy who can't assemble IKEA, that's when this stops being a sad support group and starts being an interdimensional hostage situation. Next, we're going to see what happens when Rick finally knocks on Jerry's beige little door, and who walks away from that meeting in one piece. When Ricks notice, the multiverse's smartest men meet its weakest link. So remember how I said this was about to become an interdimensional hostage situation? Yeah, because somewhere out in the Citadel a bunch of Ricks are basically running Google alerts for portal crimes. Every time a portal opens, it leaves a unique energy signature. It's like a cosmic fingerprint, except this one screams, "Hi, I'm playing with illegal weapons-grade science." The Council system is just chilling, watching the normal Rick traffic, when suddenly it starts pinging. Unstable, clumsy, off-frequency portals popping up from an Earth that already has a registered Rick on file. You know that feeling when your bank texts you, "Did you just spend $8,000 on Fortnite skins?" It's that, but for reality. So the Council flags it as an unauthorized user, slaps a potential rogue Rick label on it, and sends a small response team. 3 Ricks, 1 Morty, 0 patience. They're expecting some edgy new variant, maybe a Rick who replaced his liver with a warp drive. Instead, they portal into a suburban living room at 8 a.m. and find Jerry in a bathrobe, holding a half-melted portal device in one hand and a soggy bowl of K12 brand cereal in the other. One Rick's like, "Alright, funny prank, where's your Rick?" Another one scans him and just goes, "Oh my god, it's baseline Jerry." Intelligence, Microsoft Clippy. The device is dripping neon goo. The wall has 3 half-formed portals chewing on the drywall, and Jerry's first reaction is, is this about the HOA fees? Believe it or not, they spend the first 30 seconds just laughing. It's a hell of a power move, if you ask me, to get disrespected by the smartest men in the multiverse while you're still chewing. But then the laughter stops, because once they confirm the signature matches Rick-grade portal tech, the math gets terrifying. If someone this incompetent can access the keys to infinity, their whole security model is broken. It means portal tech isn't just a Rick problem anymore, it's a user interface problem. Jerry is basically the worst-case scenario QA test they never ordered. So now you've got factions. One cluster of Ricks wants to erase Jerry, wipe his Earth's short-term timeline, and call it a day. Clean, efficient, very on-brand genocide-adjacent solution. Another group argues to keep him alive and study him. If our system can survive Jerry, it can survive anything. They literally pitch him as a living crash test dummy. And then a few very shady Ricks kind of perk up and go, "Wait, an expendable idiot with plausible deniability who already breaks reality by accident. That's useful. I don't know, I'm kind of here for it." Anyway, while they're arguing over whether Jerry gets deleted, dissected, or deputized, one Rick just quietly walks out of the chamber. Our Rick, C-137. The one with the chip on his shoulder the size of a dying universe. Because for some reason the idea that Jerry of all people is walking around with portal power doesn't just threaten the Council's security, it threatens Rick's entire identity. And when a Rick's ego feels attacked, you might want to buckle up for what he does next. Rick without the gun. How losing portal primacy breaks and sharpens. Him. So what does a Rick do when he's not the guy with the gun anymore? Not the first portal, not the legend, just the angry old man who showed up late to his own origin story. That's a hell of a downgrade if you ask me. In this timeline, Rick is still Rick. Same super genius brain, same alcoholism, same nothing matters. TED Talk every time Morty asks a basic question. But the myth is gone. He's not the one who cracked the multiverse. Jerry is. The universe's biggest punchline accidentally becomes the opening act for reality itself, and suddenly Rick's whole brand, "I'm the only one who understands how small you are," gets stolen by the guy who can't assemble IKEA. Remember, Rick's ego isn't just big, it's structural. His entire personality is built on being irreplaceable. You love him because he's the smartest man in the universe. He loves himself because he believes that, and everyone else is background radiation. Now imagine him learning that somewhere, somewhen, a Jerry got there first. Not another Rick. Not an evil twin. Jerry. That's not just insulting, it's illegal in Rick's internal physics. The sentence for that kind of cosmic disrespect is, "I burn your entire timeline down." So what are his options? Option 1. Out-invent Jerry. Rick goes full arms race. Portal Gun 2.0, 3.0, 9.0. While Jerry is still fumbling with basic green ovals, Rick is building stuff that doesn't even need a gun. Wrist ports, thought ports. I just look at a wall and it cries open, ports. He can technically reclaim the tech crown, but it doesn't erase the fact that Jerry was first and that eats him alive. Option 2. Sabotage. Rick leaks Jerry Prime to the Federation, to the Council, to every paranoid space cop with a badge. He nudges events so that Jerry's first big cross-dimensional flex ends in a PR disaster. Refugee crisis here, black hole accident there. Just to give you an idea of how petty he can get, he'd probably design the failure so it looks like Jerry personally murdered a few universes by pressing the wrong button. Option 3 is the darkest. Co-opt. Rick smiles, plays nice, and turns Jerry into his puppet. Jerry gets to be the public god. Rick becomes the private devil. Every portal policy, every treaty, every safe exploration program is secretly written in Rick's handwriting. You get a multiverse that looks more stable on the surface, but is actually wired with Rick brand explosives underneath, ready to blow the second he needs to prove Jerry was a fluke. And this version of Rick, he's less playful, more surgical, less wubba-lubba, dub-dub, more, I just collapsed 6 timelines to win an argument. Morty and Summer don't just see a dangerous grandpa, they see a jealous one. Beth is trapped between a husband whose godhood fell in his lap and a father whose godhood got downgraded to consultant. You think family dinners were tense before? Believe it or not, we're only getting started with how ugly that power triangle can get, because once Jerry owns the doors, Rick starts looking for ways to own what's on the other side. Earth on the brink. Governments, federations, and the Jerry arms race. Once. Jerry controls the doors and Rick wants what's behind them. You get the worst possible crossover. Midlife crisis meets arms race. Because the second this portal stuff leaks outside the Smith house, every adult in charge of a nuke, a budget, or a laser cannon suddenly wants Jerry on speed dial. Let's start with Earth. Imagine the footage. A shaky phone video of Jerry opening a hole to a screaming flesh planet in his driveway. You think that stays on TikTok for more than, 6 minutes? The US government grabs him first, obviously, but then you've got the EU, China, some guy in a polo from DARPA, all arguing over who technically has jurisdiction over the sad suburban god with the green circles. It's a hell of a PTA meeting. One general calls it the greatest strategic asset in human history. Another quietly calls it, if Arumba had the nuclear codes. And Jerry? He's sitting in an underground briefing room being offered health insurance, a medal and a keycard. We just want you to help your planet, Jerry. You can almost hear his brain going, finally. Finally, I'm not the problem. I'm the solution. He starts doing training montages, but it's mostly him signing NDAs and crying in the bathroom. But buckle up, because the humans are the easy part. The Galactic Federation has been chasing Ricks for portal tech like it's the last PS5 on Black Friday. When their sensors ping a portal signature on some backwater Earth, and it's not tied to a Rick, that's like finding the nuclear launch codes written on a post-it that says, "Hi, I'm Jerry." They don't see a dangerous genius. They see a malleable, fearful, extremely kidnappable middle manager. Believe it or not, that's way more useful to a space bureaucracy. Ricks blow up your prison, Jerry's sign your paperwork, so now you've got a full-on Jerry arms race. Earth militaries are promising him Defender of Humanity status, and a statue in DC. A Federation envoy is telling him they can relocate his family to a safe, rich, totally not a propaganda planet if he just gives them exclusive access. Rogue Ricks start showing up like MLM reps. Hey Jerry buddy, what if you only open portals for me? I cut you in, you get, 3% of the multiverse. People are bribing him with titles, threatening him with accidents, flattering him with phrases like visionary pioneer that no one has ever used near the word Jerry without being sarcastic. Every choice he makes is this terrified math problem. What keeps Beth from leaving? What makes Morty think I'm cool? What gets Summer to stop rolling her eyes for 5 seconds? And if you ask me, that's the scariest part. Rick commits a crime because he's bored. Jerry commits one because he's scared. One panicked button press from this guy, and an entire alien empire gets an all-access pass to every Earth, every Morty, every Rick. He's going to sign a deal or hit a switch that permanently tilts the multiverse toward the worst possible side. And I don't know, I'm kind of here for it. Because when that happens, Rick doesn't just want the doors back, he has to decide what kind of monster he's willing to become to stop the monster he accidentally created. Micro Explainer: why portal tech is basically multiversal nuclear weapons. So to really get why a Jerry First multiverse is a 5-alarm disaster, you kind of have to understand what portal tech actually is in strategic terms. Not the green goop, the power. You're not just opening doors, you're committing the most casual war crime imaginable against the concept of here and there. Portal technology is instant, basically untraceable movement between realities. No travel time, no passports, no TSA, no sir, do you have anything to declare? You want clean water? Jump to a timeline where Nestle lost. Need fuel? Hop to an Earth that never discovered cars and strip mine their crude? You have functionally infinite resources and infinite hiding spots. Every border, every defense system, every locked vault, all obsolete in one click. Now compare that to nukes. A nuclear weapon menaces one planet, one timeline. You drop it, you ruin the neighborhood. Portal tech is like if a nuke let you steal your neighbor's house, move into an identical neighborhood 5 streets over, and then watch the fallout from a lawn chair made of stolen diamonds. Traditional deterrence stops working because what are you going to threaten? We'll bomb your country. Cool, I'll just move to Earth 47 and raid your crops from there. And this is where user psychology becomes the real weapon. Rick is a nihilistic super genius. Horrible combo, sure, but at least he understands the math of consequences, even when he ignores it. Jerry is cowardice with a Costco membership. His whole deal is fear, insecurity, and begging the universe to tell him he matters. Give that guy infinite exits and infinite audiences, and you don't just get war, you get panic-driven war, apology tours, and hostage videos recorded in 4K from 6 different dimensions. Believe it or not, that's why the Ricks are terrified. Their entire political order, the Council, the Citadel, the weird Rick UN cosplay exists to control who gets to move between realities. Portal access is the nuclear codes, the launch keys, the whole suitcase. A Jerry-first discovery is like handing those codes to the world's most anxious mall Santa and saying, "Don't touch anything, champ." He's going to touch everything. Just to give you an idea of how bad that is, imagine Jerry trying to impress Beth with a romantic portal getaway. Sounds cute, right? You light some candles, pick a beach timeline, maybe grab a Morty-free weekend. But if Jerry misdials, suddenly you're on a fascist Earth, or a Cronenberg Earth, or an Earth where Ricks are hunted on sight and Jerry just pinged their radar as guy who knows how to open doors. One insecure date night turns into a multiversal kidnapping incident. So yeah, buckle up, because once you accept that Portal tech is basically multiversal nuclear weapons, every tiny Jerry emotion, every sulk, every midlife crisis, every attempt to look cool in front of Beth stops being cute and starts being a potentially extinction-level event. Jerry's first big mistake, the romantic getaway that breaks a timeline. So what happens when that extinction-level event is just Jerry trying to book a nicer Airbnb for his feelings? You're going to love how fast this goes from cringe to cosmic war crime. Jerry's sitting on the couch, watching Rick portal in and out like it's Uber Eats for reality, and he's stewing. He's thinking, Rick gets adventures, I get unemployment. Rick gets Morty's hero worship, I get Beth's eye rolls. So he cooks up a plan that is, if you ask me, peak Jerry logic. Don't fix yourself. Just find a universe where you already did. Romantic, right? Kidnap your way to self-improvement. He spends days secretly scanning realities with his stolen portal rig until he finds it. Universe J perfect enough. In this one, Jerry never got fired. Beth is a respected surgeon. They live in a slightly bigger house, and the kids are marginally less traumatized. It's not a fairy tale. Just to give you an idea of how low Jerry's bar is, he's like, "See, Beth, I can provide. I just needed infinite probability space." So he opens a portal in the garage like it's a surprise Disneyland trip. Everybody in the glowing hole, we're going on vacation. Morty's nervous, Summer's annoyed, Beth is tired, so yeah, they step through. On the other side, there's a version of their house, their photos on the wall, their dog in the yard. Except in this world, Jerry's wearing a suit, Beth has a nicer car, and their bank account isn't a hate crime. The plan? Jerry's going to quietly shove his family into the lives of their richer, happier variants and not think about what happens to the originals, which, by the way, is extremely illegal in like 12 different interdimensional codes. He's technically committing identity theft, kidnapping, and some kind of metaphysical home invasion all at once. At first, it kind of works. Morty notices his room has better gadgets. Summer's phone has more followers. Beth's colleagues suddenly respect her. But the cracks start fast. Morty here remembers a Cronenberg apocalypse that never happened. Summer's old texts don't sync. Beth finds a family photo where her Jerry is at a medical conference he never went to. And perfect Jerry? He walks in early because, believe it or not, this version actually stays late at work for a reason. You get this horrible 4-way standoff in the living room. 2 Beths, 2 Jerrys, kids trying to figure out which dad is theirs. Beth puts it together first. Wrong scar on Jerry's hand. Wrong inside joke. Wrong man. She realizes her Jerry didn't bring her on a vacation. He dragged her into someone else's life. She calls it what it is. Abduction. And the multiverse notices. You can't just rip a whole family variant out of their timeline and leave duplicates behind without the temporal DMV throwing a fit. Identity collisions start pinging across reality. 2 Summers trying to log into the same social accounts, medical records that say Beth is in surgery and at home, financial data splitting like an amoeba. The Council of Rick's monitoring grid flags an unauthorized non-Rick portal user performing large-scale variant displacement. That's not a whoopsie, that's a reality-level threat. Jerry basically speedruns his way onto the same watch list as Rick without even blowing anything up. For some reason, that's almost impressive. I don't know, I'm kind of here for it. The emotional fallout is brutal. Beth looks at Jerry like he's a stranger who tried to replace her with a better version of herself. Morty and Summer don't just see a sad dad anymore. They see a guy who will literally erase people to feel like less of a failure. Rick shows up, reads the situation in about 3 seconds, and absolutely unloads on him. This is why you don't let Jerry near a toaster, let alone a portal gun, he says, while cleaning up the dimensional paperwork. And that cleanup? That's going to come with strings attached, because if Jerry just broke one timeline for love, imagine what happens the next time he gets scared. Buckle up, because Jerry's not done making the multiverse his therapist's problem. The Council of Ricks strikes back. Containment plans for a rogue Jerry. So Jerry quietly nukes one timeline for love and you'd think the Council of Ricks would just roll their eyes and move on, right? Nope. The second a Jerry proves he can rewrite reality with a panic attack, every Rick in a lab coat starts running risk assessments, like it's Black Friday at the Apocalypse Mall. They lay out the options like a really illegal PowerPoint. Option 1. Erase Jerry from the timeline. Just delete him. Clean, efficient, emotionally about as heavy as closing a pop-up ad. Option 2. Confiscate his portal tech, slap a dimensional restraining order on him, and pray he goes back to arguing about cable packages. Option 3. Relocate him to a Jerry-only containment dimension, a sad daycare where every activity is don't touch that. And option 4, the spiciest one. Keep Jerry exactly where he is, but turn him into a puppet ruler with Ricks pulling every string. And the debate? Oh, it's a hell of a mess. Some Ricks are like, he's a Jerry. You don't kill a Jerry, you just reset the background noise. To them, offing one Jerry is barely a crime. It's pest control. But other Ricks are doing the math. Kill this Jerry, you mess with Beth's emotional arc, Morty's availability, and about 12 key timelines where those two are supposed to be traumatized on schedule. You don't just erase a Jerry, you potentially erase 3 seasons of your own plans. So they try to split the difference. Operation Swap a Jerry. The plan is simple. Grab rogue Jerry, replace him with a docile Jerry from a low-impact universe where his biggest achievement is not burning toast, and nobody notices. You can probably guess how well that goes. The strike team portals in, tranquilizer guns set to sad dad. But Jerry's already spiraling, convinced the universe is out to get him. He sees one Rick, screams, fumbles his portal device, and in pure Jerry fashion, opens 3 wrong doors at once. Suddenly you've got Ricks, Jerrys, and at least one screaming mailman all trading places like a cosmic shell game. Believe it or not, they don't end up with one neutralized Jerry. They end up with a cluster of Jerrys stranded in the same reality, all slightly different flavors of insecure disaster. That pile-up is the exact moment some of them look around and go, wait, we're being targeted, we must matter. And just to give you an idea of how fast bad ideas spread, that's basically the soft launch of the Council of Jerrys. Now you've got Ricks panicking, Jerry's organizing, and one Jerry who's absolutely certain there's a multiversal assassination plot against him. And somewhere in the back of the chamber, Rixie 137 just quietly stands up and walks out. He's done voting. He's done with committees. If you ask me, when Rick decides the council is the problem, not the solution, that's when the real crime starts. Because he's going to handle Jerry his own way. And you're not going to like what that means for Morty. Buckle up. The next move is personal. So Rick walks out of the council chamber, and the next time we see him, he's not debating policy. He's in the Smith garage, lights off, portal arcs flickering like a busted rave. And in the middle of it, Jerry. clutching his janky, half-melted portal remote like it's a baby or a participation trophy. Same thing for him, honestly. The air's full of half-stable portals, one to a Cronenberg world, one to some kind of Jerry cult dimension, one that's just screaming. Rick doesn't even flinch. He just tells Jerry, very calmly, that this is all wildly illegal on about 12 cosmic levels, and he needs to hand over the tech before the house, the neighborhood, and probably 3 timelines get deleted. You'd expect Jerry to fold in, like 5 seconds, right? For some reason he doesn't. This is Jerry's big stand. He fires back that Rick already ruined Morty's life long before Jerry ever touched a portal. Dead timelines, buried bodies, Cronenberged Earth, that whole "I turned your parents into snakes for a bit" phase. Jerry's got receipts, and he plays the one card Rick actually hates. Jerry says, maybe a normal dad with power is better than a sociopathic genius with none. That's not just a roast. That's an identity crime. In a Jerry First Portal world, Rick isn't the necessary evil anymore, he's just the evil. Morty walks in right on cue, because of course he does, and now you've got the saddest custody hearing in the multiverse. Who gets to ruin Morty's life? The guy who's competent but doesn't care who gets hurt, or the guy who cares but has the survival instincts of wet cardboard? Morty knows Rick can actually stabilize those portals. He's seen Rick juggle Galactic Federation warships before breakfast, but he's also seen Rick treat entire species like traffic cones. On the other side, Jerry's shaking, terrified, but he's talking about college visits, family trips, and using portal tech to get Morty opportunities, not body counts. It's a hell of a choice. Rick offers a deal. Jerry hands over the core schematics. Rick child locks the tech, and Jerry gets supervised access. Sounds reasonable, right? Believe it or not, that's Rick being generous. But Jerry's drunk on the only power he's ever had. He refuses. He'd rather break the toy than let Rick own it. So Rick does what Rick does. He cheats. He distracts Morty with a fake safety lecture, quietly remote hacks Jerry's device, and collapses every rogue portal in the room. No big explosion, no big fight. Just a soft whine, some sparks, and Jerry realizing the last thing that made him special just got repoed. Technically, Rick wins. Practically everybody loses. Jerry's broken, Morty's looking at both of them like they're strangers, and Beth's trust is on life support. And Rick walks away having proved he's needed, which is exactly what makes him truly dangerous here. Because once Rick has decided the universe can't function without him, what's he going to do next to make sure it stays that way? Buckle up, because the multiverse is about to find out. So what happens when Rick convinces himself the universe needs him, and then the universe looks up and realizes it's full of Jerrys instead? You'd think that's a punchline. It's actually the tipping point. Once enough Jerrys get portal access, through leaks, black market portal guns, a few Ricks trying Jerry enrichment programs, and at least one botched Council of Ricks containment op, you hit what I'd call Jerry saturation. Imagine a graph where the line for competent multiversal travel flatlines, and the line for midlife crisis with god powers spikes off the chart. That's the phase where reality stops being curated by Ricks and starts being customer serviced by Jerrys, and they all do the same thing first, they run. Jerry from a bad marriage? Portal out. Jerry from a dead-end advertising job? Portal to a timeline where he definitely followed his dreams. Jerry who watched Rick ruin his family. He's going to hop 3 universes over and try again with a Beth who hasn't met her Rick yet. It's like witness protection, except the witness is the problem. Pretty soon, you've got Jerrys swapping lives like Netflix profiles. One Jerry ghosts his entire universe, another duplicates himself using some alien copier he doesn't understand, and now that timeline has 2 Jerrys arguing over who's the real disappointment. Meanwhile, orphaned realities are left Jerry-free, with Beth waking up like, I'm strangely productive. Morty's homework is done. Summer's not grounded. Crime on Earth goes down because the local Jerry isn't accidentally starting alien wars every other Thursday. Macro level. It's a hell of a mess. Worlds with extra Jerrys get crushed under the weight of their bad decisions. Economies buckle because half the workforce portaled away from their jobs mid-shift. You get entire planets where the only people who showed up to work were Jerrys, and they promoted themselves. Suddenly you've got Jerry-run bureaucracies regulating portal use with 12 forms, 3 emotional support groups, and a mandatory Feelings Friday. For some reason, those timelines don't explode, they just stall out in a permanent DMV line. Meanwhile, the Jerry-free timelines become weirdly stable. No dad to sabotage Beth's career. No insecure meltdown to derail family therapy. Just to give you an idea of how cursed this is, the most functional universes are the ones where Jerry literally abandoned them. Rick's notice, the council notices, and they hate it. Every Rick who was busy inventing god-killing lasers now has to file Jerry management as a full-time job. Containment squads, portal gun recalls, emergency seminars titled, "No, Jerry, you can't fix your marriage with infinite timelines." That resource drain blows a massive hole in Rick power. The Galactic Federation, Demon Realms, whatever's left of the Citadel, everyone starts slipping into the gaps Rick used to dominate. Believe it or not, this isn't an apocalypse in the cool cinematic way. The multiverse doesn't end in a neutrino blast or a heroic sacrifice. It slowly drowns in paperwork, emotional baggage, and half-finished Jerry schemes nobody is smart enough or motivated enough to clean up. And if you ask me, that's way scarier. Not fire, not ice. Just infinite Jerrys, leaving reality on red. So now that reality's been soft-blocked by infinite Jerrys, we kind of have to ask the uncomfortable question, who's actually the villain here? Is it the guy who invented God-tier travel, or the guy who fumbled into it and hit accept all on the terms and conditions he never read? Let's start with Jerry, because nobody ever does. Jerry in this timeline isn't evil. He's not waking up like, time to commit a multiversal war crime before breakfast. He's scared, insecure, and constantly trying not to get yelled at. The problem is, when you strap that personality type to portal tech, every panic decision becomes a world-ending bug. He opens a portal to avoid a hard conversation with Beth. Cool, now an entire reality is stuck in a feedback loop of his half-finished apologies. He hides from a performance review. Somewhere, a civilization gets soft-deleted. None of it feels illegal to him, which is kind of the scariest part. Rick at least understands the scale of his damage. Jerry doesn't. He's like a toddler with a loaded neutrino bomb who thinks it's a toy. He never fully understands what he's done, so he never really feels responsible. And if you ask me, that's way more frightening than Rick's. I know I'm a monster energy. Rick's crimes are intentional, Jerry's are accidental, repetitive, and wrapped in plausible deniability. Who do you even arrest for that? Meanwhile, stripping Rick of his portal monopoly turns him from multiversal god to sweaty, desperate control freak. Suddenly, he's not the only one who can leave. He's the only one who can't leave without asking Jerry for access. Imagine the Council of Ricks watching security footage of a Jerry Prime bumbling through realities with stolen tech. That's a hell of an ego hit. Rick's response? He's probably going to cross lines even he thought were too messed up just to reassert dominance. Sabotaging other Jerrys, kidnapping a useful one, maybe even staging a false flag Jerry crisis so everyone begs him to take the gun back. It's damage control as character assassination. Caught between these two disasters is Morty. In the normal show, he slowly realizes Grandpa's a walking crime spree. Here, he has to grow up fast because every adult in his life is either broken genius or broken everyman with god tech. Morty becomes the only one asking, should we even open that portal at age 14? Believe it or not, that pushes him into a morally conflicted, almost parental role way earlier. He's not just traumatized sidekick. He's a reluctant caseworker for two multiversal liabilities. Beth and Summer don't get off easy either. Beth has to face that her choice of partner and her blind loyalty to her dad literally co-authored a multiverse-wide crisis. She defended Jerry's mediocrity and Rick's brilliance, and together they turned into a cosmic joint custody disaster. Summer, on the other hand, kind of has to become the competent one by default. Someone has to remember which portal leads home, who they pissed off on, which Earth, and which version of Jerry they're currently ghosting. So who's the villain now? The genius who knows everything is meaningless, or the ordinary guy whose fear weaponizes everything he touches? In a world where the worst outcomes come from regular people, with extraordinary tools, Rick might not be the biggest threat anymore. Just the only one honest about how little any of it matters. And if that's true, wait till you see what the rest of the multiverse does about a Jerry with God access. So is a Jerry-first portal universe actually better? Or did we just trade one cosmic war crime machine for a billion tiny disasters with dad bods? Because once you zoom out, this timeline is a hell of a mess in a very different flavour. Quick recap so you can keep your trauma straight. Divergence 1. Jerry stumbles into portal tech first, maybe at a sad little ad agency R&D demo, maybe by pushing the wrong button on Rick's unfinished prototype because he thought it was a universal remote. Either way, the least qualified guy gets the keys to reality. Divergence 2. The early chaos is small-scale but brutal. Family-level stuff. Beth getting portal stalked at work, Morty accidentally opening a hole into a universe where his dad actually has a job, Summer rage-hopping into timelines where her parents never married. Out of that emotional Chernobyl, you get the Council of Jerrys, a support group with God access. They standardize the tech, write sad little bylaws, and accidentally create a multiversal lobby for mediocrity. The Council of Rick's panics, slaps on travel restrictions, and starts treating Jerry like contraband. Governments notice the portals, start an arms race, and suddenly every mid-tier Earth is like, hey, what if NATO but with more Jerrys? By the time you hit multiversal Jerry saturation, you've got a soft, whiny layer of incompetence smeared over infinite realities. Compare that to Rick's original timeline. Rick is a sniper rifle of damage, targeted high-intensity catastrophes. Cronenberged Earth, genocided microverses. That's one guy doing boss fights with morality. The Jerry first timeline is more like glitter in a carpet. Less immediate body count, way more places it never comes out of. You don't always get a mushroom cloud, you get 10 million small illegal screw-ups. Treaty violations, half-finished evacuations, abandoned portals in school bathrooms, quietly rotting the structure of reality. So is it safer? Technically, Jerry commits fewer deliberate atrocities. He's not waking up and saying, "Time to erase a civilization, Morty." But his incompetence makes everything more unpredictable. He promises one universe he'll never open portals again, then panic opens 5 more because Beth yelled at him. Treaties get broken by accident. Refugees get stranded because he forgot which green button goes home. No one is really equipped to manage that, not even the Ricks, because you can't out-genius a billion tiny fears. Character-wise, everybody loses in a very poetic way. Jerry finally gets his moment of cosmic importance, and it shatters his sanity and his family. Beth can't unsee that her husband is both the reason she's important, and the reason everything is broken. Rick loses his monopoly on meaning. The portal gun isn't a symbol of singular genius anymore, it's a consumer product with dad issues. Morty and Summer grow up in a multiverse that's way messier and way more morally grey. Every timeline is partially ruined, but by people who are trying their best, which, if you ask me, is way more disturbing than an open villain. And that sets up the really scary part. Maybe the worst version of portal tech isn't in the hands of a mad scientist or a tyrant. It's in the hands of a guy who just wants his wife to stop being disappointed in him. Because if that's the baseline, what happens when the rest of the multiverse starts copying Jerry's playbook? So here's the uncomfortable part. Who's the Jerry in your life? Like, picture that one well-meaning but absolutely not qualified friend. The person you wouldn't trust to microwave leftovers without supervision. Got them? Now imagine they get the first working portal gun, infinite doors, infinite timelines, and they're standing there, finger on the trigger going, so, what does this button do? You still sleeping at night after that, or are you pre-packing your go bag? Because what we just watched with Jerry is basically that. Portal tech isn't just a cool green splat, it's a personality mirror. In Rick's hand, it reflects pure nihilism. Nothing matters, so every crime is on the table and the sentence is just more days he doesn't care about anyway. In Morty's hand, it's anxiety with a user interface. Every jump a panic attack. In Summer's, it turns into ambition and rage management. And in Jerry's, it becomes insecurity with a safety off. Just to give you an idea of how bad that gets, we went from Jerry literally tripping over half-finished genius in the garage to him flailing his way into multiversal relevance. One accident at work, one, oops, I pressed the glowing thing, and suddenly you've got a council of Jerrys voting on whether brunch is mandatory across realities. You've got Rick having a full ego meltdown because the cosmic DMV now makes him take a number. And behind all the slapstick, you've got a multiverse quietly collapsing under a billion small mediocre choices that were never technically illegal, but were definitely catastrophic. That's the joke, but it's also kind of the point. Cartoons exaggerate, sure, but the idea that ordinary incompetence can cause extraordinary damage, that's not sci-fi. That's your uncle sharing conspiracy links or some middle manager approving tech they don't understand. When power scales up faster than wisdom, you don't always get a Rick building doomsday devices. Sometimes you get a Jerry hitting accept all on the terms of service of reality. So yeah, portal tech is a hell of a gadget, but if you ask me, it's an even better personality test. Hand it to Rick, you get cosmic war crimes. Hand it to Jerry, you get cosmic HOA meetings. And I don't know, I'm kind of here for how scary both of those are in different ways. Now I want to know what you do with it. Drop a comment. Who should get the portal gun first in the next What If? Summer rewriting the multiverse like it's her college essay? Beth running interdimensional horse surgery? Or do we go full chaos and let Mr. Poopy Butthole speedrun reality? Vote down below, tell me your wildest scenario. Smash like if you'd absolutely not trust your local Jerry, subscribe, and portal yourself into the next What If deep dive. Buckle up because we're just getting started.